Hello, my name is Zoe Dunbar, and I'm going to be doing my presentation on looking into the brain of a psychopath. So the first thing that I think about when I think of psychopaths is a psycho, which is something that people use to refer to someone as crazy, or just seeing someone in a serial killer movie, you would think of them as a psycho. So to get into that, we can go to the background of psychopaths. So the diagnosis or the disorder of psychopathy is actually a subcategory of the antisocial personality disorder, which is abbreviated as ASPD. It was first brought up in the 19th century in France, and a good definition of it is a disorder that affects a person's ability to have empathy towards people as well as a conscience. This is a short little diagram to show you the concept of psychopathy and how it relates to personality disorder, dissocial behaviors, and its antisocial personality disorder as well as itself. So to go into the nurture part of psychopathy, we can look at two theories to show you how it affects the brain. So the first one is somatic marker hypothesis of Damasio 1994, and this is said that people with psychopathy have a damaged prefrontal cortex of their brain, and I learned in the article called Structural Brain Abnormalities in Psychopathy, it leads to impaired decision-making abilities, reflecting an incapability to activate autonomic somatic states linked to the anticipation of reward and punishment. So in other words, this disorder makes it hard for people to see the difference between right and wrong and care for that matter. And so it's really hard for them to have remorse or realize that what they're doing is not right. Second theory that can be used to see psychopathy is violence inhibition mechanism by Blair in 1995, and this was said that people with psychopathy have a dysfunctional amygdala. The amygdala is the part of the brain that regulates emotion, which is why it is pretty much impossible for people with psychopathy to have empathy towards others. So something that goes along with the nature of psychopathy is a story about a man named Phineas Gage, who we learned about in recent lectures. He was impaled with an iron rod, and this created his personality to change to a point where it kind of resembled some ASPD or psychopathic tendencies or personality traits. So since this wasn't dysfunctional, he wasn't born with it, and his environment caused this development of the disorder, we can call this a nature environmental factor. So he did not develop it at birth, but he got it later in life after an incident. Another way we can see some environmental factors is in child abuse or neglect. This could cause psychopathic tendencies, and this wouldn't cause the whole disorder. The child couldn't just totally develop psychopathy, but it can fuel the disorder and make it worse. One controversy that is big is, are all psychopaths violent? And although you see a lot of movies about psychopaths and how violence and psychopathy are linked, it does not mean that psychopathy means violence. In other words, there's no studies or evidence to say that psychopaths are all violent. It's just that most of them have no way to empathize, so it's harder for them to see as it wrong. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.